Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Random Encounters, show where I use random encounter tables, like the kind that you see in games like Dungeons and Dragons, and I use them to create cartoons. I'm going to draw some cartoons. I don't know exactly what the subjects are. The random encounter tables will help me figure it out. Um, By the way, I'm your cartoonist pal Stan that already went into the lower corner there a couple of seconds ago. In case you didn't read it, that's who I am. And I don't know if this is going to come over the microphone, but there is a very loud, thumpy helicopter coming over. So I apologize if that's showing up and rattling your headphones. It should pass soon. Anyway, yeah, tonight I forgot that tonight was the State of the Union address. In fact, it's happening right now while I'm streaming this. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are some people who don't show up for this because that's a little more important. You could watch either on replay, but really, this is the one to come to. So if you're coming on replay, uh, I'll I'll be watching the State of the Union while you're watching this. Um, in the meanwhile, I also didn't plan for tonight's subjects to be State of the Union uh, related because it didn't even occur to me. I'm so used to that happening on a Tuesday. What it is Oscar related because this weekend is the Academy Award ceremony, which really doesn't impact my life one way or another. But it's a fun thing. I do love movies, and I've been thinking about doing an episode here where we had something movie related. This seemed like a good time to do it. So I'm going to grab my iPad here. I do all of my drawing on an iPad Pro with the Apple Pencil and using the app Procreate. None of which are sponsors. I do all that because I like all three of them so very much. I also very often will say they're not sponsors, but I'm open to the possibility if they want to give me a call. So here we go. We are going to do an Oscar themed show. Carrie says State of the Union is about to be on. Yes, I know. State of the Union is about to be on. Um, that's all right. I'm going for it anyway. I made my plans. I can watch it on replay. There's nothing that's going to be said at the State of the Union that I won't be able to process just as easily when it's done. And I'll maybe be a little less tense knowing that it's already done. Let Biden be Biden, as they say. I'm not going. I have very strong political opinions. I don't bring them to this show. Those people who know me know what they are, and I can be counted on when the situation is right to participate and to even do cartoons to support that position. But that's not this show. This is the fun improv cartooning show. Hello, Joseph. Hello, Linnea. Hello, Carrie. Um, Me opinionated? No, couldn't possibly be. Let's segue out of that, shall we? I feel this is a road that's not going to go well for me in the long run. Uh, let's come over here and have a look. We're having our Oscar special tonight. Sunday night is the Academy Awards. I'm not picking any of the particular movies, although as I was saying, I think that some week in the not too distant future, I may have a classic movie night of the show where the probably the we'll have D&D related who's and movie related what's. In this case, I'm going with the ceremony, the award ceremony itself. So we've got four possible Oscar related choices. We'll be drawing three of them, or I'll be drawing three of them. You know what? That brings me to a good point. You could be drawing them too. I hope that while you're watching this, you'll at least consider grabbing a notebook or a sketchbook or your favorite electronic media and just doodle along. You don't have to do something that's, you don't have to show it to the world like I do. I do that because I'm brave and stupid. Um, you can just draw for fun. That is the main point of the show. Is that drawing is fun, and That's why you should do it, because it's fun. All right, so here we go. That's what we got. Oh, you know what? I didn't do. I didn't turn on my dice app. So let's do that right now. There we go. So we're not going to use that. We're going to do our usual once, twice, third time. Once, twice, third time. 4 for a who. And oh, good thing that came up under 6. I need to change this because we've got we have 4, not 6. So 4. No, roll it again. So 4 is the who, and once, twice, third time. 3. 3 is the what. So let's come back to the encounter table. 4 is a zombie, and 3 is, and the winner is, which I'm figuring is some kind of opening the envelope moment. So that's what we'll be drawing here. For drawing number 1, I'm going to go to the sketch, turn that off, make sure we're on the blue color, because I like to do my sketching in blue. For those who have not heard me say it before, that is a throwback to the old days when I was working on physical media, and you would use blue pencils for your sketches because the old photo reproduction system wouldn't pick up the blue, and it would make it easier to do your erasing. So I got, and the winner is our cue. So I think I'm going to have a podium here. A podium with a little Oscar statuette on it. And we're going to have someone behind the podium. It's going to be zombie related. Okay. I think I've got my gag down. I know what I'm going to do. They always send people up there in 2, so we've got to have 2. And we got do a little sketching. Now, the Oscars. I used to enjoy watching the Oscar ceremony. Back before it was, I don't know, probably in the 70s and 80s mostly. Back before the ceremony was, ridiculously long, and back before there was so much hype made about the whole thing. It never really mattered, but it was fun. I always found it to be a fun occasion. Maybe I should do that over here. And then I'll change this guy's head so he's not looking down. There we go. The gag will become clear as I do the drawing, but I think that it's probably enough to get me where I need to go for getting started. All right, I don't know. Have you figured out what the gag is? Do the attendees enjoy the Oscars? Everything I've heard, most of the attendees do not enjoy going to the Oscars. It's a long ceremony. They've got to sit in their seats. They can't get up while it's on, because of TV. I hear a lot of complaining about how difficult it is to get into particularly the women's room for the that the lines are long, and you can't go, and you've got to be there. And of course, I can tell you just from my small involvement in gaming related uh, award ceremonies, it's stressful, um, because you need, if you do win, you've got to know what to say, and if you don't win, you know you don't go there expecting to win. I At least I never did, but it's still a disappointment when you don't. Right? Uh, I've never been up for an award that I expected to win. I always knew that there were other people who had done great work that I admired very much, and that you know, chances are, in any ceremony like that, there are 5 or 6 nominees or more, and only one winner. So, going to be more non-winners than winners. And since the real the real thing to win is the approval of the audience, right? That you can get people to buy your products and enjoy your products, and that's what really matters. The awards are after all that's done. So you've already had your big award is that you had a product that a lot of people bought and liked and said nice things about. But when you're there at the show, you're there at the award ceremony, and your name gets called as a possible winner, and the award goes to someone else. You're always a little, at least a little disappointed. It's not fun to sit there and not win. And I don't think that there's any insincerity in the clapping for the winner. At least there certainly wasn't for me. But I know that even though I sincerely thought they did a great job and deserved the win, that my it it was not a truly happy clap from me. It was a yay, yay them. I don't know why I'm going on and on about that. Except, well, I guess because of the question whether or not people enjoy it. Everything I've ever heard anyone involved in movie making say about going to the Oscars or other award ceremonies makes it sound like my experience in gaming is very similar. So here we go. In case you hadn't guessed it already, here's the gag: is this guy's jaw fell off just as he's reading the winners. And the winners are Mark says, I love going to award ceremonies where it's a sure thing. Yeah, those are the best kind, where you've been told, okay, you're winning. Show up. They come along even less frequently than the ones where it's uncertain. But those are the best kind. There's no question about it. We are going to give you an award. Please be there to make a speech. All right. draw this other zombie here, his co-presenter. The show must go on, man. Doesn't matter if your jaw fell off. So, what do you guys think? I just rambled a whole bit about how I feel about the Oscars. Have you guys? Do you guys like watching the Academy Awards? Have you ever? If you don't now, have you ever enjoyed that? There were certainly great years when Billy Crystal hosted, where there was a lot of good comedy involved, or when there was I know that when Lord of the Rings was up for a bunch of Oscars, a lot of us were watching. Certainly, if you have a movie that you particularly like, you you get a secondhand joy out of seeing it win, even if you aren't actually involved in its making. All right, I'm going to draw this guy here. Just standing there, looking pretty, as they say. All right, that's looking okay. We got a good start. Let's turn off the sketch layer and see how that looks. What else needs to be added to make this work? Not a ton. That's looking all right. Put him in a tuxedo, but he's still going to have bare feet because he's a zombie. This eye is reading a little funny. That's an unintended pun, too. And the winner is. Maybe I should put that in a word balloon. It's looking all right. I think. See, Linnea says, my favorite is when ensemble casts come up and they're clearly tickled pink for each other. Yes. The year when La La Land and I don't even remember what the other movie was. The question of where the wrong name got read out. Jaw dropping, yes, yeah, right on the nosy. Except these guys don't have nosies either. Um, the sword should go through the skull on the Oscar. That's a joke for another time, maybe. Who knows? Maybe one of the other drawings. Let's get in here and do some coloring. We're going to go to the gloaming brush, which I like to use because it gives me that crayonish slash markerish effect, and I can do the quick loose coloring. I have to say, I didn't see a lot of the movies that are nominated this year. There have been years when I've gone to the movies a lot and seen most of the nominees. In fact, there have been years where I've seen so many that I went out of my way to see the final ones just so I could say I saw them all. But this ain't one of them. As much as I wanted to see both Barbie and um, Oppenheimer, I have not seen either. I'm not sure I've seen any of the other nominees for this year. Hmm. And we need a faux black color for the tuxedos. We're not in an era where people will be wearing weird, oddly, or interestingly colored tuxedos. The men almost certainly will all be in some shade of dark blue or black. Maybe I should have made one of these a woman zombie, so I could have put her in a gown. Although certainly red carpet is one of the choices on the list, so I should have that opportunity. Odds are I'll have that opportunity before the night's over. One of the nice things about coloring like this is that as long as I don't stop moving, as long as I make it one long stroke, it doesn't. The color doesn't go over itself, and I can just fill it in. Right now, if I go back, so again, let me do that again. So if I do this, if I keep coloring like this, it'll keep going. But if I stop and then start again and go over it, you'll see that it's clearly drawing over itself and changing the feeling of the coloring. It's not just one piece. So I'm going to try to do this all again in one non-stop crazy bout of scribbling. Go. I think it's turning out all right. I'm going to put a little color here to indicate that the jaw was falling off and dropping out there. And the winner is how do you spell that? All right. Back to the inking. We will stick my little stand down here. And we'll call this Zombie. And the winner is. Ha! All right, I'm going to have a drink and then see what you guys have been talking about. Ren says, "Huh, do you play D&D?" Ren says, "I don't recognize your name. I don't know whether you're making a funny comment or not. But yes, I play D&D. I I I have worked on D&D for TSR and Wizards of the Coast, and on lots of other TTRPG products. That has been the bulk of my career. It is only in recent years, I'm realizing I want to add a little yellow to their eyes here. It's only in recent years that I've been able to do enough work in cartooning, which has always been my favorite thing to uh, to focus on that, and which is why I'm doing this, shows like this. But yeah, the core of my work has been working on role playing games in general and Dungeons and Dragons in specifically. So I made D&D. I worked on the for the company that made D&D, and I worked on D&D products. I was not the guy responsible. Well, I was the guy responsible for writing several books, a whole lot of books, in fact, but I wasn't the main designers. But yes, looking for D&D and found my channel. Yes, because the themes of this show, Ren, welcome. I'm glad you found the show. So the reason that D&D is a theme is that I'm doing improv cartooning with a D&D base. Let's go back and I can show you because you're just walking in. Perfect timing. Perfect timing, Ren. So if I come back here, I don't want to go back there. I want to come over here. And you can see that what we have are encounter tables, like the kind that we use in Dungeons and Dragons. And I use these encounter tables, and I use a die roller to randomly select a subject, a who and a what, and then I draw that cartoon. And they are mostly D&D related. In fact, all the who's you can see here are creatures from D&D. And the what's often are real world stuff. This week, it just so happens that we're doing Oscar related stuff because the Academy Awards are this weekend. Um, but yes, I worked on the Dragonlance team for a very long time. I was a creative director for Dungeons and Dragons Worlds for 5 or 6 years. I was a producer for D&D in the more recently with the fifth edition material. I was a producer early on in that. So yes, I've worked on the game itself. This is kind of a D&D flavored entertainment, and I hope that you enjoy it. So now we're going to pause, and then we'll get on to the second drawing. Because it's time to move on to the second drawing. We finished drawing a zombie, and the winner is. Let's go back now to the dice and see what we get for our second drawing tonight. Here we go. We're going to roll once, twice, third time is a charm, and 1 is our who. And once, twice, third time, 3 is not going to do it. It's going to be a repeat. Let's see what we got over here. Come back again. Switch it up. And 1 is Umber Hulk, and 3 is And the Winner Is. Don't want to do the And the Winner Is. What if we made... if we switched it around and the 1 is the what, then we'd have the Oscar statuette and the 3 would be a dragon. So, why don't we do that? We're going to do dragon Oscar statuette. That's going to be drawing number 2. So let's get in here, and we'll come to the sketch layer, and go back to our inking brush, and turn off that, and we can get started. And Ren asked a question: how do you even manage to create big worlds? Well, so like so many things, when you look at the finished product, it is it's that question seems, how could you possibly have done that? And the answer, as so often is the case, is that in pieces, step by step, and a lot of people were involved. So I guess the question is, do I want to draw I have two choices here. I can draw an Oscar statuette as if it's a dragon, or I could draw a dragon holding an Oscar statuette. I think I'll go with that first one. So first, I need to get the roughly the shape of the Oscar statuette. Yeah, so there's a lot of teams involved, and there's a lot of trial and error, like writing a novel, only more so. It's the difficult thing or the challenging thing about doing D&D worlds is that uh, you're not writing. You're not coming up with a story. You're coming up with the sandbox for lots of stories to be told. And so, in some ways, it's a little easier, and in some ways, it's just a lot harder because the urge is to tell a story. The urge is to have, you know, have the villains and the heroes and who's going to do what and how are they going to, how's it going to go. But you just need to set the table, as it were. You need to lay it all out, and you need to make it so that the dungeon masters, people playing at home, um, have enough room to run with, but that they get to play their game. They get to tell their stories. And so that's that can be a little challenging. But like I say, you work with talented people, and you go from having general idea what do you want the world to be like, what do you want uh, the themes of the world to be, and you start putting it together bit by bit. And you work with let's say talented writers, and you put some stuff down and see what works and what doesn't work, and you send it out to uh, readers and playtesters to try it out. That'll do. Uh, there's a lot of one of the things you can't be is too precious. You can't. It's not your world. When you're designing a D&D world, one of the main things you need to remember is it's not your world. You're creating a world for other people to tell their stories in. So I don't know if that answers your question. So did you create the characters first or the world? They are kind of connected. So I think in my experience, you start with a theme. Like um do you want this to be so for example, I did not participate in this. This was before my time, but say the Forgotten Realms, which is now the basic setting for Dungeons and Dragons game products from Wizards of the Coast. When Ed Greenwood, the guy who created the uh, Forgotten Realms, he wanted a world, not a world where anything could happen, a world where everything could happen. He wanted this to be the world, no matter what was happening, what kind of adventure you had, what kind of story you wanted to tell, it could be told in this world. And if that's what you're going to do, well, then you start thinking along those lines. You can't have situations uh, that make it impossible for a certain kind of story not to be told. In fact, you need to make sure there are opportunities for every kind of story to be told, which is pretty challenging. I think that the fact that the realms uh, that he he came up with it and it's lasted this long is kind of miraculous. But say Planescape, which just got redone recently. The idea was that we wanted to have adventures that take place in the planes, these cosmic settings that we'd talked about for years and years, and no one quite knew what to do with. Well, the goal was to have stories that could be told there. So you start asking questions like, okay, well, what would that look like? What would the heroes need to be like to be the kinds of people that are running around uh, in this cosmic setting? What what would the people who live there be like? What would it be like if you are uh, what kinds of characters? Those are the questions you ask. Rather than specific characters, you start with what kinds of characters would inhabit this place, and make it so that it functions the way that we want it to. Right, Dragonlance, which I did work on, though I didn't work on at the beginning. The idea was, well, we got this, or one of the starting ideas was we have this world where there's a great war going on and dragons are being ridden around. Okay, well, who would ride a dragon? How do you wind up being someone who rides a dragon? Well, you start answering that question, and suddenly the the dragon armies and the Knights of Takhisis start coming into view as answers to that question. And then once you have the broad answer, you can start laying detailed details on it. Like, oh, we know we want them to be a knightly order, which means that they probably are going to be lawful, but we also want them to be evil because they're the bad guys. So who are they going to worship, and how is that going to work? And every question you answer, or many of the questions you answer, will of course generate more questions. And you keep very good notes. And when you find something that works, you keep that. And when what you suggested doesn't work for some reason, well, you then think up another idea. And slowly over time, you wind up with a game setting. All right, so I'm going to turn off the sketch layer because this is coming together pretty well. Since it's a statuette, you don't really have to do a lot with it. Though I suppose if I take the whole thing, I want to put it on a base the way you would for the to show that it's not just someone standing there. All right, so we're going to have to put that there. There we go. Oops. Well, see, now I did the opposite of what I often do. I just put that blue line on the lines layer. So I'm going to have to move that around. Thankfully, this will work out pretty well. It's not touching anything, so I can scoot in there and grab it. And I cut that so it's gone. I want to make sure I erase what's left of the blue. And then I turn on the sketch layer, and I will paste there. Comes back. And now it's on the correct layer. All right. So let's go back to our lines layer and draw some lines for that. It sounds complicated. Well, I mean, it is complicated. It's certainly, like I say, the fact that Ed Greenwood basically created the Forgotten Realms by himself. In the days, even, I mean, the realms were around. That was his fiction world before there even was such a thing as Dungeons and Dragons. The fact that he did that all by himself, people who, as lone artists, create uh, campaign settings, it's very impressive. Even as someone who does this for a living, it's very impressive to me. It's challenging, but as I say, you're working with a team, and hopefully, it's a team of very creative, skilled people, and that in itself is just fun. You know, if you are a that kind of person, that kind of creator, you know, this is the kind of thing you've waited your whole life for the chance to get together and work with other creative types and make something of such a huge scale. And it's something you might never be able to pull off on your own, but as a team, you can make it happen. And if you're lucky, the audience likes it. All right, let's turn off those sketch layers again and see what we got. We got a Best Picture statuette, Dragon Oscar statuette. So I'm going to come to the colors layer and go back and make sure I put on the gloaming brush again. And we're going to come here and make a gold. I'm going to come in and this is also easy because it's basically one color, but I'm going to spend a little time and that I don't usually do playing around with extra colors. When you're playing with playing, I don't really mean playing. When you're coloring with crayons, it's a little hard to get colors to mix because the crayons are kind of like blunt instruments. They quite literally can be blunt instruments. They're one color. They go on very thick and heavy, and they don't mix very well. Though if you use a light touch, if you don't press hard with the crayon and come in more lightly, it's easier to get the colors to blend, but they also come in softer. If you're working with watercolor, something like that, then colors blend right away and it's hard to keep them separate. Here, with the digital, it's more like crayons than watercolors. It's harder to get things to blend, although it depends on what brushes you're using and how you're using opacity and other little details. But let's finish with a first pass. This is, again, it's like coloring with crayons. My first pass, I'm just laying down flat colors, called flat colors, filling spaces with just a single color of a basically uniform density. Now, I'm going to come back and I'm going to do some of what you've seen me before do. I'm going to take a color, that main statue color, I'm going to take a darker version of it, and I'm going to put that on the underside, figuring that the color, the light is coming from the top. Anywhere that there might be a shadow cast, or that's the underside of something, I'm going to put a little darker color. I'm also going to use it to draw attention to where there's a change in depth. So like the wings are behind the shoulder, so I put a little darkness on the thing that's further back. The arm is further back than the chest, so I did the same thing on both of those. And then I've come over to the underside again on there. These hips are under the arm, so I'm going to put a little shadow on that. The idea is that sword is in front of the legs, so again I'll put a little bit of that on either one. Alright, so we do it like that, and we begin to get a little sense of color, a little sense of depth. Now, I'm going to do something I don't usually do, and that is I'm going to add some reflection on the top side. So the light where it hits is going to do the opposite of what we just did. Where the spot is towards the light is going to get a little bit of reflection. The top side of the head and the wings, or the top side of the sword and the hands, the arms here. And that creates that feeling that there's a little bit of shine, kind of like when I go like this, see the shiny reflection where my head is toward the light? That's what we're adding on here. Also, if you just want to give something a bit of a pop forward, add it there just a little bit, even if the light isn't literally shining there. There we go. That's looking pretty shiny. Let's come and do the same thing here for the rest of it. A little less so, but same idea. I think we'll probably just do the shadows though. Here's a little bit of a weird one. I want it there and there, probably. Again, what counts as an underside at this juncture? And there we go. That's looking pretty good. I think that we have we got ourselves a dragon Oscar statuette. So I will come back to my lines layer. And I'll put my Stan on there. We have a dragon Oscar statuette for our second drawing. I like it. Let's see, Ogre Den says, switch from Facebook, it was misbehaving. Facebook often misbehaves. I recommend people come to the, if given a choice, the YouTube version is the place to come see the show. But I like to make it available to people in as many places as possible. All right, so that's two drawings down. We're gonna do one more, and then we will call it an evening. This has been a lot of fun. Ren, I'm really glad you showed up. These are some interesting questions you're asking, and I'm happy to talk about them. So take another drink here. Actually, you know what? I will pause right here. I don't have sponsors for the show. Not that I'm against them. I just don't have them. But I will pretend that I am my own sponsor again. And since Ren is here and you like D&D things, here's another show that you may be interested in. I do a show on Wednesday evenings, and it is called 50 Years in the Dungeon, and it's celebrating the 50th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons. You, since you found my channel, if you look elsewhere on my channel, you'll find a playlist of 50 Years in the Dungeon. It is a combination interview show and also a drawing show. Each year, or each week, I'm doing an interview with a person of experience working on Dungeons and Dragons, and at the same time, I am drawing an homage to a classic Dungeons and Dragons piece of art. And I'm going year by year. Each episode, I'm taking a piece of art from the next year in line in the history of D&D. So far, I started with 1974, the first year that D&D was around, and I've done 6 episodes of drawing. So I've just finished 1979. Last night I did 1979, which was the cover of the original Dungeon Master's Guide. And, since I'm here and I have my iPad with me, I can show you what that looked like. Come here, and this is the drawing that I did last night. An homage to the original Dungeons and Dragons Dungeon Master's Guide. Blue. I'm switching gears. I'm switching shows in my head, and it's not working so great. Before that, the week before, I did one. This is based on a drawing from the original Player's Handbook. The drawing is called A Paladin in Hell. And this was my interpretation of it. Before that, this was the cover of the original D&D basic set, which premiered in 1977. So this was the 1977 show. So each episode, I'm doing a drawing of a homage to a classic D&D piece of art, while I'm having a conversation with someone who's worked on the game. Last night was a guy named Skip Williams, who was the person behind the Sage Advice column for about 20 years. Beginning with first edition and up through fourth edition. He was the Sage. The week before that, I had James M. Ward, who was the vice president of TSR for a long time. He was my boss when I went to work there. And he is the guy who created, from a D&D perspective, if you ever see any spells which talk about Drawmage, the wizard Drawmage, that's, if you read that backwards, it's Jim Ward. That's him. So I'm having interviews with people who worked on the game. We're talking about their history with the game and what it was like working on the game and things like that. And yes, the Holmes Edition box set, which is where I started. This is the cover for the game that got me started playing D&D. So that's what this show is about. 50 Years in the Dungeon. And right on the screen right there is a link to the free newsletter that goes with the show. 50 Years in the Dungeon.substack.com. 50 is 50 for those of you who may be listening and not looking. So 50 Years in the Dungeon.substack.com. It's a free newsletter. It lets you know what's going on with the show. You get early access to seeing what the finished piece of art looks like. Paid subscribers get things like process videos for each of these, like a 30 to 60 second video that shows the creation of the piece of art. Just kind of springs from line by line. It's a video capture of what I'm doing while I'm drawing. So 50 Years in the Dungeon. Let's say, Ren, if you're coming for the D&D stuff, you should look into that. If you can, come on a Wednesday night to the live chat, and you can interact with the guests. Otherwise, all of the shows are available for replay there on my YouTube channel. So, woo, look at that, me advertising, doing the businessy stuff. I'm going to come back here and close out. Maybe you want to see what I'm talking about here. I'm going to close this out and come to turn on round 3, so I'm ready to go. Turn back on our encounter tables, and we're going to do one more time. So, all right, time for drawing number 3. We'll do one more, and that will be it for the evening. So let's go back to our die roller and see what we get here. Once, twice, a third time, we got a 1. And once, twice, third time, 3 again. Keeps rolling 3s. So I guess it's going to be my choice. Or, I mean, you folks um, get to participate too. But unlike most weeks, we're really Oscar centric. So Umber Hulk is what we got for our Who. Umber Hulk. I could do vampire. Ren history. Ren, you're here for the first time, and you are making a request. So I will grant. I am a merciful lord. I grant your request. We'll do a vampire. Vampire on the red carpet, or vampire acceptance speech, or some other maybe some other Oscar related thing. All right, turn this off. We'll come here to do the sketch. Turn it back to the blue. Say, oh, the Moldvay cook for you. All right, well, so you're well versed in the lore of D&D. Okay, so we're gonna have a. I'm trying to think of a gag, and the funny thing about vampires don't come out on film. So what good are they on the red carpet? That would be a funny joke. I often say there's another fellow who shows up here, Dave Lemon, Linnea's fella, who often has a lot of suggestions. I don't know if you can hear. We got another one of those heavy helicopters coming by. My apologies if it's leaking into the audio. It should pass soon, I hope. Dave will often come up with ideas which are very, very funny, but don't lend themselves especially well to single panel drawings like this. I think the idea of vampires on the red carpet is that the best jokes require a setup and a punchline and don't carry that well on a single panel. I'm trying to think of what would. Again, open to suggestions here if you folks have any. Vampires on the red carpet. Vampires on the red carpet. A vampire accepting the award. We're going back to the vampire accepting the award. Let's see. Let's start. Rather than leave this empty, let's just start drawing our vampire. Because no matter what happens, we're going to need a vampire. Guess I'm going to have the vampire go with the accepting the award. So, the question for me is, where's the gag? Where's the joke that we can pull out of this? This is the other thing I've talked about. I've actually mentioned this a few times. This doing this show is a lot like um, a a case in point of where do ideas come from, right? Come up with something a rough concept, and then you try and throw ideas around, and you fool around with it. You do some sketches, and uh, I don't know. I mean, aside from this rough positioning, I don't know what I'm thinking. Maybe what if he, uh, you know, what would he say in his acceptance speech? What would a vampire say? I've waited millennia for this. Ha ha ha. Not really funny. They say Hollywood is full of bloodsuckers. Where tonight it's true. Ha 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 ha. You like me. You really, really like me. Maybe that's just it. Just that you like me. I don't know. I'm gonna start sketching this. I'm gonna start doing the drawing, and I think found the what the drawing looks like part. Just don't have a gag. We don't have a thing for him to be saying. Or I mean, I could also put someone down here that he bit on the way, but that doesn't really seem to go with it. Again, if this was a multi-panel thing, there's probably a story that could be woven into that, but I don't know. Suppose if nothing else comes along, I'll probably just put you like me. You really like me. All right, there we go. And the other thing that this show will play up is sometimes it's just not going to come. Right? You're drawing for fun, and that has to be enough because not all the time will the great ideas come. You can play around with ideas, and and nothing will turn up sometimes. And but I I tell you what, I guarantee you that sometime uh, tomorrow or over the weekend, I'm gonna have a great vampire idea because my brain is now working on it. In the end, I think that this drawing in itself is kind of funny, but it's not funny funny. It needs something more to complete it. And again, if you have an idea now, speak up. Let me know. Okay, so looking pretty good, I think. Yeah, ideas. Even though I can point to this is the process by which ideas come, still don't really know how where they come from. But you get them by putting yourself in a position to think of things think of things in a way that you haven't thought of before, and then you try things out. This works, this doesn't. This is kind of reflects back on the how do you write a campaign setting question, right? You try things, and some things will work and you develop those. Some things aren't going to work so well, so you put them back and you try something else. Now, if this cartoon was for publication, if I had someone wanting me to do a vampire Oscar or comic for publication, why they would want that in particular, I don't know. Uh, I would start just like this, and I rather than drawing this whole thing out the way I'm doing, I would be filling a page full of sketches of different ideas, and then seeing what what came from them. Kind of like I just did before. I'd be saying things out loud and making jokes, making bad jokes, making jokes I know don't work, just to see what crops up uh, in my mind after I say it. Sometimes it's not what you say; it's what does that make you think of next? What comes next? And then all of a sudden you come up with something you can't go straight to the new idea. It's got to bounce off something. So you try as many different things as you can. And eventually you wind up with something that works. Or you don't and you quit and you go work at Starbucks for the rest of your life. There we go. Looking good. Just throw some extra details in here. So if you played, never mind. It's um, not who I thought it was. Lots of brilliant artists work for Starbucks or DMV. Yes, well, there's also a lot of people who, if you're not doing it for a living, then it doesn't really matter, right? You do it for fun, and when it works, and when it doesn't, you maybe you feel bad about it, but it doesn't really impact you. It's only if you are trying to make a living at it that being successful every time or close to every time becomes an important factor. In fact, it's much better to do it for fun. because you can. I'd say even if this doesn't work out, I'm still having fun. Oops. All right. So we're going to give our vampire kind of a light purplish skin tone. As anyone who's seen a earlier episode where vampires were our subject knows I like to do. It looks, it's not quite pale flesh. It's not undead green. It's vampire purple. We'll also give him yellow eyes. I like to do that for undead creatures of all sorts and evil creatures. Let's see. Black cape, black cape. And traditional, shall we say. Again, I'm doing that quick, large shaped colors that you can do for yourself if you're drawing with crayons or such. You don't have to fill the entire shape. Draw the shape within the shape. I think we're going to go with a red inner, red lining on that cloak. Again, just very traditional. Very, very traditional. And then, how about a dark blue? For his top. Maybe a gray-green for his trousers. And coloring works kind of the same way. I pick an idea and I put it on there. If it doesn't work, I make it something else. My choices may be a little more, may happen a little quickly and may work out well the first time more than yours do, but that's mainly because I've been doing this for 40 years. So I'm not just starting fresh. I'm pulling all those experiences in my choice making. And then we've got a statuette. Do the same thing we did before. Do that. Get a lighter side for the lighter version of the same color for the side. So it accentuates the fact that we're changing angles. There we go. I still haven't. How am I drawing without using an eraser? Oh, I have used an eraser, uh, but I'm drawing on my iPad, and so occasionally you may have seen lines that I put down disappear. That's because I'm using an eraser. But what I'm doing again, because I'm uh, working on this electronically, they have different layers. See on the side of the screen there, these layers. Just the pencil sketch I did there, the lines up here are different layers. So I turn off the sketch, or when I was drawing it, I had the sketch turned on, and I drew over it. But then if I turn off the sketch, they all go away. So that's why it looks like I'm not erasing anything because I'm just taking that entire layer and removing it. And the same thing, colors are a layer beneath the lines, so I could turn off the lines, and that's just what I've been coloring. The lines go above it. I'm still trying desperately to come up with some kind of funny thing for him to say as he's accepting this award. Tell you one thing, I'm going to go back in here on the lines layer, and I'm going to add in, oops, go undo that, go back to my inking brush. I'm going to add in a microphone like that. And then we'll come back to the colors layer. I'm just stalling for time. And no idea is coming to me. Oh. I'd like to thank who the vampires say he wanted to thank. Maybe that's where the joke is. I'd like to thank. I always say I'd like to thank all the little people, but that would have been funnier if this was a dragon or some kind of giant creature. I'd like to some a giant. Like to thank all the little people. That that would have been kind of funny. Here, let me take a sip while I think. Um, oh, oh, oh! I've got it! I've got it! I've got it! Oh my goodness! See, you sit around long enough, and an idea comes. Tell you what, I'm not going to tell you it's a great idea. Um, um, Thinking about how to phrase this. I don't want to say it out loud because I want you to get some idea of punchline when I write it. But I may need to bring you in on this. It's a bloody good feeling. That's this. All right, that's all right. I may use that one. It's a bloody good feeling. Okay, so what I was thinking of this, uh, this is a result of something like this is the result of lots of blood, sweat, and tears, especially blood. um, um, this award is thanks. Is thanks to many people's blood, sweat, tears. Especially blood. There we go. That's where the gag comes in. This award is thanks to many people's blood, sweat, and tears, especially blood. Although this is a bloody good feeling is a really good. That I was gonna go with that if this hadn't clicked. Good, good suggestion, Ren. I don't want you to feel like I don't appreciate it. I do. Here we go. This award is thanks to many people's blood, sweat, and tears. Especially blood. Blood, blood, blood. All right. Okay, so let me just take another drink and then we will go into the closing section. All right, so we've done it. We've had another evening. We got 3 Oscar worthy cartoons. Well, Oscar related anyway. We've got a vampire uh, accepting the award. Uh, we had a dragon Oscar Oscar statuette. Think that there was more than Diet Coke in what I'm drinking. And we had Zombie, and the winner is. And the winner is. So there we go. Those are our 3 Oscar related drawings. Another fine night of random encounters. Random encounters, get it? So there we go. I hope that you all had fun. I want to thank everyone who came along. I'm going to take this off screen now as I do my little closing number. Thank you, ever, for coming along. Thank you, Ren, a newcomer who discovered us by accident. I hope you had fun, Ren, and I hope you'll come back. Also, as I said, remember on Wednesday nights, I do 50 Years in the Dungeon on this same channel. So you can check out that or check it out in the replays when we're done here. Thank you to Linnea, and thank you to Mark and Kerry, and thank you to Joe, who was here on 2 different accounts. Um, I, I, I'm very pleased that you all showed up and spent this evening with me. I will be back next week with another hour plus of random improv cartooning. I hope you'll join me. And until then, have a good week. I'll talk to you all soon, and take care. Bye.